You wake up to the morning light filtering through your window, the soft glow warming your face. The air feels fresh, and for the first time in weeks, you actually feel it, alive. It's a strange feeling, almost as though your body is waking up alongside you. There's a slight tingling in your fingertips, and your mind is clearer than it's been in ages. Today feels different. Today is a new beginning. You roll out of bed and stretch, a smile tugging at your lips. You're not sure why, but the notion of eating plant-based is no longer just a vague thought in your mind. It's real. You've been thinking about it for months, and the more you've learned, the more you've felt the shift. So, what was once a random idea has now become a decision. You're going vegetarian. You know it won't be easy. After all, you grew up in a household where meat was always on the menu. Beef stew, roast chicken, steak nights. The meat aisle at the grocery store was your playground. But now, you're looking at it differently, considering the ethical, environmental, and health impacts of your choices. As you stand in the kitchen, gazing at the fruits and vegetables in your fridge, it's clear, this is just the beginning. You take a deep breath and go for it. First meal, a veggie stir-fry. Simple, right? Fresh vegetables, some olive oil, maybe a few spices. You begin to cook, the vegetables sizzling in the pan as the smell of garlic and ginger fills the room. For a moment, everything feels right. You are finally aligning your actions with your values, but then you hit a snag. You're not sure what to do with tofu. It's something you've heard about but never really understood. It's slippery, odd-textured, and you feel a little weird about cooking it. You watch a YouTube video, but the person on screen makes it look so easy, flipping tofu like it's no big deal. You try to flip it, and the tofu slips off the pan like a tiny fish escaping a net. You laugh. It's not perfect. But you're trying. You plate your veggie stir-fry, tofu included, because, why not, and take your first bite. It's not bad. Actually, it's better than you expected. Sure, it doesn't taste like the steak you had last week, but it doesn't taste like cardboard either. You feel proud. You made it. The first step is done. Tofu. The enigma. You've heard so much about how versatile it is, how it can soak up flavors, how it's the perfect substitute for meat. So you bought it. A block of it. You didn't know how to press it, or what extra firm even meant. But you figured, hey, I'm in this, let's do it right. You tried to make a stir-fry. You slopped some oil into the pan, threw in the tofu, and waited for the magic to happen. You imagined a crispy golden brown crust, as promised by every online recipe you'd ever read. But what actually happened? The tofu stuck to the pan. In fact, it became one with the pan. Not crispy. Not even brown. Just mushy, not to be defeated. You thought, it's fine. We'll flip it gently. But when you tried, the tofu crumbled into bits like a bad breakup. There it was, your first tofu disaster. Not the Instagram-worthy meal you had envisioned.
Well, that didn't quite go as planned.
But, did you throw it out?
Looks like
No,
we have
you
extra
ate
crispy
it.
kale
Because you're not giving
today.
up, right? The journey had just begun, and so, you learned the first lesson. Tofu isn't your enemy, but you need to be patient with it. And maybe invest in a press.as. The days pass, you find yourself experimenting with new recipes. You're navigating the world of vegetarian cooking like a beginner, but you're also starting to understand that cooking with plants is a new kind of art form, one you're slowly starting to master. And yes, you have your
I made
victories,
kale
the
chips.
roasted cauliflower is actually delicious, and failures, the kale chips are either burnt or soggy. But you're making progress, and you can already feel the benefits. You have more energy, your digestion is smoother, and you're waking up with a newfound sense of clarity. You read
These
it everywhere.
tomatoes look amazing.
Kale chips are so easy to make.
Freshest in the
toss
market. Picked
them in
this
olive
morning.
oil, salt, and pepper, and bake them until crispy. You're like, alright, I've got this. So you grab a bunch of kale, throw it on a baking
They're
tray,
fresh from the
drizzle
farm
olive
this
oil like
morning.
it's your personal elixir, and pop it into the oven. You wait. The smell starts wafting through the kitchen, and you're imagining yourself nibbling on crunchy kale chips like some kind of health guru. You check the clock and it's been 10 minutes. But as you open the oven, you're greeted by charred remains. Not crispy chips. Charred flakes. It turns out, the oven was a bit too hot, and you had forgotten to check on them. Oops. Lesson learned. Kale chips are delicate. Very delicate. You chuckle at your expense and decide that next time, maybe you'll leave them in for only 5 minutes. Or just not try to make them at all. As the weeks roll on, you find yourself feeling lighter. Not just physically, though that's part of it. Your energy is up. Your skin is clearer. The physical benefits of eating a plant-based diet are starting to show up, and you feel it. And it's not just about the food anymore. You start to realize that this journey is about a transformation that touches every part of your life. It's not just about what you eat. It's about your relationship with your body, your values, the earth, and even your relationships with others. Weeks have passed since that first, tentative bite of tofu. You found yourself fully immersed in this new lifestyle, one that is now more natural than anything you've ever done. The act of choosing plant-based meals has become second nature, and it's clear that this decision, once filled with uncertainty, has blossomed into something much more meaningful. You've shifted from wondering whether you'll stick with this to simply knowing this is who you are now. And with each day, you're learning more, not just about vegetarianism, but about yourself. At first, it was all about the basics: what to eat, how to prepare it, and which brands to trust. You've gotten comfortable with tofu, although, sometimes, it still crumbles when you flip it, but that's okay. You've discovered the vast array of vegetables that you never gave a second thought to before, like bok choy and kohlrabi. And even though you had some missteps, like the great kale chip fiasco, you're starting to enjoy the process. It's no longer just a task, it's a joy. You find that cooking has become a ritual. There's something peaceful about chopping vegetables, smelling the herbs, and carefully crafting each meal with intention. And, best of all, you're feeling good, in your body, in your mind, and in your heart. The more you embrace this lifestyle, the more connected you feel to yourself and to the world around you. It's not just about food. It's about purpose, but let's be real here, transitioning to a fully plant-based lifestyle isn't all smooth sailing. There are days when you open your fridge and stare at the wilted kale and the sad, leftover quinoa in the corner, and you think, what now? You've got to get creative on those days. Some days are more DIY salad than gourmet cuisine. And that's okay. You take a deep breath, chuckle at your lack of culinary skills, and move forward. It's not about perfection, it's about, quinoa. You'd heard so much about how great it was, super healthy, packed with protein. But when you cooked it for the first time, you quickly realized you had no idea what you were doing. You threw a cup of quinoa into a pot, added water, and waited. It was supposed to fluff up, right? You eagerly watched the timer count down. When the time was up, you opened the pot to find what looked like a sad puddle of mush. Not fluffy. Not light. Mush. You tried to stir it, hoping that maybe it would magically transform, but no. It was beyond saving. You considered throwing it out, but then you remembered, you didn't waste food anymore. So, you decided to salvage it. You added some olive oil, tossed in some veggies, and tried to sell it to yourself as a grain bowl. And to your surprise, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't perfect either, but it was edible. You figured, hey, it's a work in progress. You smiled to yourself. This is your new normal now, imperfect, but deliciously yours. As you continue, the benefits of your lifestyle begin to show up in more ways than you anticipated. Your body feels lighter. Your energy levels are more consistent throughout the day. You wake up without the sluggishness that used to define your mornings. And your skin? It's clearer. You've noticed less redness and fewer breakouts. You can't help but feel proud of your commitment to yourself and your health. It wasn't always easy, but it's been worth it. There's a deeper connection forming between you and the food you eat. Each meal is no longer just something you consume to fill your stomach. It's a way of connecting with your body, with the earth, and with the people around you. You begin to notice that even your mindset has shifted. You're more mindful of what you put into your body. And it's not just about nutrition, it's about living with intention. It's about honoring yourself and the planet with every bite. You start to realize that vegetarianism isn't just about eating differently. It's about aligning every part of your life with your values. From the food you eat to the brands you support, you're choosing consciously. Whether it's choosing products that are cruelty-free or avoiding single-use plastic, every small decision you make is rooted in a greater sense of purpose. And then there's cheese. Oh, the cheese. If you had any doubts about whether you could ever truly live without it, those doubts came crashing down the first time you bought vegan cheese. You'd heard that dairy-free cheese was the future, but you weren't so sure. It was time to experiment. You bought a block of what was supposed to be the best vegan cheese. The packaging promised it would melt perfectly, like mozzarella on a pizza. Excited, you shredded it onto a pizza and popped it into the oven. The smell? Pleasant, almost familiar. The taste? Oh, it wasn't exactly mozzarella. In fact, it wasn't anything like cheese at all. It was like rubbery, bland, and faintly sweet. You spent the next 5 minutes trying to convince yourself it was just a learning experience. But deep down, you knew that the pizza was going to need some work. The good news? You didn't throw it out. You ate it. Because, honestly, you were already deep into this plant-based journey, and nothing was going to stop you, not even the mystery that was vegan cheese. You're starting to learn, though, that sometimes it's the mishaps that make the journey memorable. And, hey, you're becoming more resourceful in the kitchen. You're starting to see the beauty in imperfection. Sometimes, the most beautiful meals are the ones where you had no idea what you were doing, but they turned out just fine in the end.
Months go by and the transformation is no longer just physical. The change has seeped into your very bones, like a quiet fire that has slowly spread through every part of your life. At first, becoming vegetarian felt like a set of conscious decisions. What to eat, what not to eat, how to adjust to this new way of living. But now it feels more like an unspoken truth. The change isn't just in your diet, it's in your habits, your outlook on life, your actions. You no longer even think about it. It's second nature. Your meals have become more vibrant, more varied. Gone are the days when you'd look at a salad and think, this is a side dish, not a meal. Now you throw together bowls of roasted veggies, grains, leafy greens, and crunchy nuts with the same ease you once reserved for making a sandwich. Every meal feels like an opportunity to discover something new, something delicious, something that fuels your body in the best possible way. And the results are noticeable. Your skin is clearer, glowing, almost as if it's thanking you for the nourishment. Your energy levels are through the roof. You're waking up early, feeling alert. Your mornings no longer tainted by that sluggish post-breakfast crash. You're even getting more sleep at night, and it's quality sleep. Gone are the restless, tossing and turning nights that used to plague you. But it's not all rainbows and perfect veggie burgers. Oh no! There are still the occasional bumps in the road. Sometimes you pass by a fast food restaurant, and the smell of fries hits you like a freight train. Oh, that crispy, golden perfection. And sometimes at a party or family gathering, the meat dishes look too inviting. You watch as someone digs into a sizzling burger, the cheese melting perfectly, and you're reminded of the days when that was a staple in your life. But instead of surrendering to the craving, you take a deep breath and remind yourself, it's not about the burger, it's about who you are now. As you keep walking this path, you've learned one key thing. Perfection is an illusion. The idea that you can avoid all temptation forever, that you can be perfect in every choice, is not only unrealistic, it's unnecessary. You've embraced the concept of progress, not perfection. It's okay to slip up, to make mistakes, as long as you're learning and growing. Speaking of progress, let's talk about avocados. They've become the darling of your plant-based life, haven't they? You can't get enough of them. Avocado toast, guacamole, added to salads, smooshed into smoothies. You were living your best life with avocados. The problem, you might have taken it a little too far. Are you still eating avocados? I mean, really? Is it worth it? Are they really that good for you? Let's talk about it. One day you decided to eat an entire avocado because, it's good fat. You sliced it up, sprinkled a little salt, and devoured it like it was going out of style. It was perfect, creamy, smooth, and but then you wanted more. And by the time you were finished with the second avocado, you realized you had officially become the stereotype of avocado lovers and slightly overestimated the limits of good fat. The next few hours were spent in regret, not the emotional kind, but in a very physical kind of way. You swore off eating two avocados in one sitting, for at least a week, and when you were finally able to move comfortably again, you laughed at yourself. You were learning that balance wasn't just about what you ate, it was about how much you ate. As the weeks flow into months, your relationship with food starts to shift. At first, it's all about the food itself, what you eat, how you make it, and does it taste good. But now there's something deeper, a spiritual connection to the earth. Your meals become a form of self-care. It's no longer about eating to fill a hole or satisfy an urge. You're eating with intention, and in doing so, you're feeling more grounded, more centered. When you sit down to eat, you feel gratitude for the ingredients, for the earth, for the farmers who grew your food. You savor the textures, the flavors, and the way they nourish you. There's a mindfulness in every bite that wasn't there before. You're learning that eating is not a passive activity. It's an act of respect for yourself, for others, and for the world around you. After weeks of feeling like a plant-based guru, you thought you were ready for the next challenge. Making your own almond milk. You'd seen the YouTube videos, read the blogs, and thought, how hard can it be? It's just almonds, water, and a blender, right? You bought the almonds, soaked them overnight, and got ready for the big moment. You were prepared, confident even. You threw everything into the blender, added water, and hit the button. You waited. But when you opened the lid, the smell was, well, it wasn't exactly the fresh, sweet smell you expected. It was beany. You strained it, poured it into a jar, and took a sip. And then you realized this almond milk was a far cry from what you were used to. It had a consistency that was a little too thin, and a flavor that was, well, odd. You tried again, and again, and again. After the fourth batch, you threw in the towel. You realized that some things, like almond milk, are best left to the pros. You may have had your pride bruised, but your journey was still going strong. You'd mastered many things, But almond milk, not yet. Let's talk about it. Making almond milk is harder than it looks. Soaking the almonds overnight is key. But you also need a good quality blender to get that creamy texture. And do you forget the ice water because that's going to help balance out the sweetness of the almonds and make the milk last longer. Oh, and do you forget to season it well because almond milk can be bland if you do add some flavor. But even with all those tips, it can be tough to make almond milk taste like the store-bought stuff. And that's okay. It takes practice to make something taste good. And you may have to experiment with different ratios of almonds to water to get the consistency you're looking for. But don't give up. Keep trying, and eventually, you'll get it right. And when you do, it will be so worth it. Making your own almond milk is a great way to save money and avoid the additives and preservatives in store-bought almond milk. Plus, it's really easy to customize the flavor by adding vanilla extract or other flavorings. You can even use the milk in recipes like smoothies or latte. And while it may take some time and practice to perfect your almond milk recipe, the end result will be worth it. Just think of the satisfaction you'll feel when you take a sip of your homemade almond milk and it's just as good as the store-bought stuff. You'll know that all the time and effort you spent was worth it. So don't give up, my friend. Keep practicing, and eventually you'll be making almond milk like a pro. As your relationship with food continues to evolve, it spills over into other areas of your life. You find yourself more intentional about how you live in the world, making mindful choices that reflect your values. You've begun to realize that vegetarianism isn't just about what you eat. It's about how you move through the world and how you interact with others. You've shifted from simply altering your diet to embracing a holistic lifestyle, one rooted in compassion, sustainability, and conscious living. There's a sense of empowerment in this newfound approach to life. You're no longer just reacting to the world around you. You're actively shaping it with every choice you make. From the way you source your food to the companies you support, each decision feels like an opportunity to align your actions with your values. The more you learn, the more you realize how everything is connected. Your choices have a ripple effect. When you choose to eat locally grown produce, you're not just nourishing your body, you're supporting local farmers, reducing your carbon footprint, and contributing to the health of your community. When you choose to buy products made with sustainable materials, you're making a statement about the kind of world you want to see. You're not just buying a shirt, you're voting for a healthier planet. And it's not just about what you do, it's about who you surround yourself with. You start to notice that your choices are inspiring others, friends and family, even strangers. They begin to ask questions. Some want to know about the recipes you've been trying. Others want to know how they can start making more plant-based meals. There's a sense of solidarity that grows as you share your experiences. You don't have to push anyone to change. You're just inviting them to explore a different way of living, one that's rooted in compassion and sustainability. You've become a pro at buying sustainable products, reusable bags, eco-friendly cleaning supplies, and plant-based everything. One day, while browsing at the store, you noticed a section dedicated to zero-waste living. Feeling confident in your newfound commitment to the planet, you grabbed a few reusable jars, some beeswax wraps in because why not, an organic cotton laundry bag. You felt like a true But then came the checkout line. The cashier looked at you and said, "You know, these are great choices, but you're still using plastic bags to carry them, right?" You froze. A moment of complete realization hit you. There you were, proudly strutting your eco-friendly purchases to the counter. And you hadn't even thought to bring your reusable shopping bags. You looked down at the plastic bags in your hand, feeling mildly embarrassed, but you laughed it off, telling the cashier, "Next time I'll be more prepared." You promised yourself that from then on, you'd make the ultimate eco-friendly purchase, forgetting plastic bags entirely. But the more you reflect on these moments, the more you understand something crucial. There's no need for perfection. Your journey isn't about getting everything right all the time. It's about the ongoing effort to make more conscious choices and to grow into the best version of yourself. The mistakes, the laughable moments, the setbacks, those are part of the process. The journey is long, and there's so much more to learn, but each step you take is a step in the right direction. You also begin to realize that the changes you're remaking are part of a larger cultural shift. You're seeing more and more people becoming interested in plant-based eating, sustainability, and ethical living. It's no longer just a niche movement, it's becoming mainstream. You start to see more plant-based options at restaurants, more documentaries and books on the subject, and more people starting to make small changes in their own lives. This shift, although it may seem small, is helping to create a more compassionate and sustainable world, and you're proud to be part of it. One evening, You and a friend decide to have a plant-based dinner together. You've both been experimenting with vegan recipes, and tonight is all about making vegan spaghetti. You're confident. You know this meal, inside out. You've made this dish before, and it's a winner. You're chatting as you cook, chopping vegetables, stirring the pasta sauce, and putting it all together. The meal smells amazing. You both sit down at the table, eager to dig in. As you take your first bite, your friend looks at you, her eyes wide. "Wait a second," she says. "Isn't this the sauce with cheese in it?" You freeze cheese. No, you're sure you used nutritional yeast. You rush to the fridge to the jar is open, but the label is smudged. You blink. You can't quite make out what it says, but it definitely looks like a container of Parmesan. "Oops," you say, laughing nervously. "Well, this was supposed to be vegan." You both burst into laughter. You've spent the last hour trying to convince her that plant-based meals can be delicious and easy, only to have it backfire in the most cheesy way possible. As the months turn into a year, you find that this lifestyle, this decision to become vegetarian is no longer just a set of actions. It's who you are. It has become part of your identity. There's no more second guessing. You've found your rhythm. You've learned how to cook, how to shop, how to balance your meals, and how to explain to your friends that, yes, tofu really can taste good when prepared, right? You're no longer the person who hides their vegetarian lifestyle. You wear it proudly. When someone offers you a slice of pizza with pepperoni, you politely decline, but instead of feeling like you're missing out, you feel empowered. The old cravings are less frequent now, and when they do appear, they're easier to handle. You've learned that resisting temptation isn't about willpower, it's about alignment. You've aligned your diet with your values, and it feels like you've found a deeper sense of peace. Your relationship with food has transformed. It's no longer about indulgence or instant gratification. It's about mindful nourishment, about creating meals that reflect your love for yourself and the planet. It's about creating a space where every bite has purpose. And as you sit down for your next meal, you realize this journey isn't just about food anymore. It's about living authentically, with intention, compassion, and care for everything around you. As you move further into this vegetarian lifestyle, you begin to notice something surprising. The sense of fulfillment, just coming from the meals anymore. Sure, your cooking is better than ever, but it's the deeper satisfaction, the peace of knowing you reliving in alignment with your values that really hits home. At first, it was a bit of a struggle. You had to remind yourself daily that this lifestyle wasn't a punishment or a sacrifice, but an act of The initial novelty of new flavors and textures soon gave way to the reality of preparing every meal yourself, constantly trying to avoid processed foods, and navigating social situations where your choices might be questioned. But now, months into your journey, it's not just second nature, it's your nature. It's not a big deal anymore. It's simply the way you live, and that's something to celebrate. You realize that your relationship with food has changed in ways you hadn't expected. You used to be someone who ate to fill a need, a gap. Now, you eat to nourish. Meals aren't rushed anymore. They're savored. You find yourself experimenting with ingredients you never even knew existed. Tempeh, delicious when marinated just right. Nutritional yeast, now a staple. And mushrooms, who knew they could be so versatile? The more you delve into this, the more you're understanding the true meaning of food as medicine. You've discovered the healing properties of ginger for digestion, turmeric's anti-inflammatory benefits, and the calming effects of chamomile tea. Your meals are no longer just sustenance. They're tools for your well-being. You've begun to think of food as your ally, your friend, a supportive friend who might sometimes offer a bit too much spice, but a friend nonetheless. One night, you decide to step up your game and make a very ambitious Thai curry. You've seen it done on YouTube 1,000 times. You have the ingredients, the confidence, and let's be honest, an entire pantry of spices that you barely understand. You're ready. You chop the vegetables, the onions, and add the curry paste. The house fills with the most incredible smell. You're feeling like a certified pro, and you begin to feel the chef's glow. You taste the sauce? Perfect. But wait, you have one more thing. Red chili flakes for a little kick. You sprinkle some in, but maybe too much. It seems okay at first, but then, with each taste test, you notice a creeping heat in your mouth that quickly escalates to full-on fire. You rush to add coconut milk to mellow it out, but the damage is done. You end up with a curry so spicy that it could probably melt your insides. You laugh. You eat it anyway, sweating, because, well, it's edible, right? The next day, your friends come over, and you offer them a taste. As soon as they take a bite, their faces turn bright red, and they start drinking water like they've never tasted liquid before. It's a comical disaster, but at least you learn two things. 1. Don't be too ambitious with spice. And 2. Always remember to check the recipe for mild and hot ingredients. As time passes, something more profound begins to settle in. You start to see the mental shift. Thoughts have become clearer, more grounded. In the past, your mind would wander aimlessly, bouncing between random thoughts like a ping-pong ball. Now, there's a calm focus to your thinking. You're able to make decisions more efficiently, and with a newfound sense of clarity. It's almost as if your brain is getting the same nourishment your body has been receiving from your plant-based meals. This newfound mental clarity isn't just a side effect of eating better. It is a direct result of the choices you've made to align your actions with your core beliefs. You start to feel more centered. You're present in each moment, whether you're cooking, working, or just sitting with a cup of herbal tea. It's a kind of peace you never realized was possible. The noise of the world seems quieter. The anxiety that used to weigh on your mind is beginning to lift, slowly but surely. You realize, in this moment, that this change isn't just about your diet, it's about your whole self. You've not only nourished your body, but you've also begun to heal emotionally and mentally. It's a beautiful thing, this slow transformation. And it makes you feel more at ease, more confident in the decisions you're making. You can't help but smile when you think about how far you've come. It's a Saturday afternoon, and you're feeling particularly ambitious. You decide it's time to take on the ultimate vegetarian challenge, making your own veggie burgers. You're not talking about the store-bought patties either. You're going all in. Homemade. From scratch. You grab your ingredients, black beans, chickpeas, oats, spices, and yes, some nutritional yeast, and get to work. The first attempt is a disaster. You're blending, mashing, and seasoning, thinking, this will be amazing. But when it comes time to form the patties, they crumble. No matter how much you try to salvage them, they're just a mushy mess. You laugh at your failure, thinking, well, maybe it'll just be a veggie bowl today. But you refuse to give up. You try again. This time, you add more binding ingredients, a little flour for structure. You form the patties carefully, flipping them like an expert, waiting for the crispy exterior. When it's done, you take a bite. It's perfect. You look at your creation with pride. After all, you've just mastered the veggie burger. The second attempt was worth it. You celebrate your triumph with a perfectly stacked veggie burger and think, this is the kind of victory I can get behind. By now, vegetarianism is no longer a fad or a phase, it's your new reality. What started as a conscious effort to change has blossomed into something sustainable, something that feels right at every level of your life. It's not something you do anymore. It's who you are. You don't need to announce it to the world. Your choices speak for themselves. The way you cook, the way you shop, the way you live, it's all a reflection of your values. As the days turn into months, the challenges that seemed so daunting at first become second nature. Your kitchen is filled with ingredients you never thought you'd use: tempeh, and all those weirdly wonderful leafy greens. You've mastered cooking without meat. And honestly, you can't remember the last time you craved a steak. Sure, the occasional burger temptation still pops up, but it's fleeting. You've found satisfaction in your new routine. And it's not just about what you eat anymore, it's about the lifestyle you've embraced. You feel a profound sense of contentment in knowing that your decisions, your small, daily choices are making a difference. Not just for you, but for the planet, for the animals, and for the generations to come. You're a part of something bigger, and while you may not have all the answers yet, you know one thing? You're walking down a path that feels true to who you are. The more time passes, the more it becomes clear that the vegetarian lifestyle isn't just a diet for you. It's a way of life. What once seemed like a big change, learning how to cook without meat, adjusting your palate, and figuring out where to buy plant-based foods, is now second nature. You've mastered the art of meal prep. You know the best vegan cheeses, and you can whip up a tofu stir-fry without breaking a sweat. You feel a sense of pride whenever you see a friend eyeing your plate of roasted vegetables, or when someone asks you for your secret recipe for that killer veggie chili. It's funny to think about how, just a few months ago, you were terrified of tofu. Now you toss it in every dish, like it's your most trusted ally. And speaking of allies, let's not forget about avocado. The avocado era is in full swing in your life, and you're perfectly okay with it. There is something incredibly satisfying about adding a sliced avocado to a salad or spreading it on toast. You can't help but smile when you remember the time you had avocado toast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yes, it happened. And it was glorious. But it's not just the food anymore. Your entire lifestyle is infused with a sense of balance, clarity, and purpose. You notice how much more in tune you are with your body. You wake up feeling rested, your mind sharp and focused. Your energy levels are consistent throughout the day, without the usual midday slump. Even on your busiest days, you no longer feel drained or sluggish. Your body has found its rhythm, and it's thriving on plant-based meals. You also start to realize that the journey is about so much more than just food. It's about living in a way that aligns with your values. You start to pay more attention to your carbon footprint, opting for reusable shopping bags, avoiding plastic packaging, and supporting companies that prioritize sustainability. You've become the person who reuses glass jars for storage, who makes sure to compost food scraps, and who carries a stainless steel water bottle everywhere you go. You start to see these small acts as part of a bigger picture, that S slowly coming into focus. You even start to notice how your relationships have evolved. You've always had a tight-knit group of friends, but now, there's a new kind of connection. You're not just bonding over shared meals, you're bonding over shared values. They're asking more questions about plant-based living, curious about how they can start making healthier choices themselves. And though you don't push anyone to change, you share your journey with them, knowing that even small steps are significant. Your friends might not be ready to go full vegetarian just yet, but you've planted the seed, and that's enough. You've been hosting more and more dinners lately, plant-based of course. You've become the go-to person for everything vegetarian in your social circle. One night, you decide to host a dinner party with a theme: vegan comfort food. You're excited. You've planned everything meticulously. Vegan mac and cheese, vegan BBQ, lentil sliders, and even a vegan chocolate cake for dessert. You can practically see the rave reviews coming. But of course, things don't go according to plan. You start with the mac and cheese. You've tried the recipe a few times and perfected it. So, you go ahead and pour the sauce over the noodles, thinking it'll be creamy and dreamy. But when you take a bite, it's grainy? Like really grainy. You check the ingredients again, and realize that instead of nutritional yeast, you accidentally grabbed the garlic powder. Not a huge issue, but it's definitely not the cheesy flavor you were hoping for. Undeterred, you move on to the sliders. You've made the lentil patties before, and they were always a hit. But this time, they crumble. And when you try to put them in buns, they fall apart. It's like they've conspired against you. The patties don't even hold together long enough for a proper Instagram shot. At this point, you start to get a little flustered, but you smile through it, thinking, it's just dinner. It's just food. As you serve up the final course, the chocolate cake, it looks promising. But when your guests take a bite, they all pause. One of them says, "It's good, but it's really dense." You secretly wonder if this is how bricks taste. The texture is so thick, you think it could be used for construction work. But again, you smile, reassure them, and offer some plant-based whipped cream on top. By the end of the night, you've learned a valuable lesson. Hosting vegan dinners is a delicate art. Sometimes, things go wrong. But your friends are understanding. And hey, they leave full and happy, even if they're questioning your creative culinary skills. The important thing is that everyone had a good time, because food, at the end of the day, is about bringing people together, no matter how messy the meal might get. You've made tremendous progress, but the journey is far from over. You start to realize that this shift isn't just about your diet, it's about being more present in your life. Your meals have become acts of mindfulness. When you sit down to eat, you savor every bite, fully aware of what's going into your body. You've started practicing mindful eating, no distractions, no phone, no television, just you, your food, and the act of nourishing yourself. It's amazing how something as simple as eating can become a form of meditation. You find that, as you slow down and truly appreciate each meal, you also begin to appreciate life more. You feel more connected to your body, more attuned to your needs. You're no longer eating in a hurry or mindlessly shoveling food into your mouth. Now, you eat to nourish and sustain yourself, not just to fill an empty space. This simple practice of mindfulness has permeated your daily routine. You notice that this mindfulness extends beyond just eating. You're becoming more present in other parts of your life, too. When you talk to people, you listen more attentively. When you're at work, you're focused and efficient. Even when you go for a walk, you're not rushing through a tour present, enjoying the sights and sounds around you. You're realizing that living with intention, being mindful of your actions, is a much more fulfilling way to live. In your newfound journey to mindful eating, you decide to try making smoothies as a quick, healthy breakfast. After all, it's got all the essentials: fruit, veggies, and protein, right? You blend everything together: spinach, banana, almond milk, protein powder, and press the button. The blender roars to life. The sound is reassuring, like it's doing all the hard work for you. But when you pour the smoothie into your glass, you notice something off. It's chunky. Really chunky. Confused? You take a sip, and then it's like a leafy green salad with a side of banana that got stuck in the blender. You try again? You add more almond milk, thinking that'll help. But nope. It's still a thick, chunky mess. You take a moment, look at the smoothie, and burst out laughing. Smoothies are supposed to be the easy, healthy meal, but here you are with a drink that feels more like eating a salad through a straw. In the end, you decide it's probably best to chew your smoothie from now on. After all, you're learning. Progress? Not perfection. The months keep slipping by, and with each new day, the impact of your vegetarian lifestyle becomes more profound, not just on your own life, but on those around you. The change in you has sparked a quiet shift in your relationships. You've found yourself connecting with others in ways you hadn't anticipated. And it's not just about your food choices anymore. It's about shared values, shared experiences, and creating bonds over something as simple as a home-cooked meal. You start to notice that your friends and family are starting to ask more questions. They're curious about your meals, about the benefits you're experiencing, and most importantly, they want to know how they can start incorporating more plant-based foods into their own lives. They ask for recipes, tips, and advice. At first, you thought this was just a fleeting curiosity, but now, it feels like it's becoming a movement, one that is quietly but steadily spreading. You remember the time your best friend who has never been a fan of vegetables tried your famous veggies? He was skeptical at first, eyeing the dish as though it were a science experiment. But when he took that first bite, something magical happened. His eyes lit up. This is actually really good," he said, his voice filled with genuine surprise. You smiled, feeling a quiet pride. Your cooking, your journey, had inspired him to think differently about food. That moment, small as it seemed, was the first step toward opening his mind to the possibility of eating more plant-based meals. Now, you're hosting small dinner parties with friends. UV shifted from being the one who brings the salad to the one who offers a full vegetarian feast. People are surprised at how delicious and filling plant-based food can be. They're impressed by how satisfying the meals are, how flavorsome, and how creative you've become in the kitchen. UV started experimenting with ingredients that weren't even on your radar a year ago: jackfruit, tempeh, nutritional yeast, and cashew cheese. And every time someone takes a bite and smiles, you feel like you're doing something right. You're creating change, one delicious meal at a time. But as with all things, there are setbacks. Not everything you make turns into an award-winning dish. Take, for example, the time you decided to make chickpea salad for a picnic. It sounded simple: canned chickpeas, fresh veggies, olive oil, lemon juice, and a sprinkle of herbs. But somewhere in the execution, things went horribly wrong. You were rushing a little, trying to prep everything for the picnic, and accidentally added way too much lemon juice. The salad ended up tasting like a citrus bomb exploded in your mouth. You added more olive oil, more herbs, but nothing could save it. The chickpeas were overwhelmed. You had no choice but to scrape the disaster into a bowl, cover it with a napkin, and call it a refreshing citrus-infused salad. When you brought it to the picnic, your friends politely tasted it, but you could see their faces contorting. It wasn't the worst dish in the world, but it definitely wasn't what you had in mind. You laughed it off. Sometimes, even the best chefs make mistakes, you joked, trying to salvage your dignity. At least the fruit salad was a hit. As you continue down this path, you start to realize how much of your journey has been about you're not just accepting your dietary choices, but you're learning to accept yourself in all your imperfect glory. You've stopped holding yourself to unattainable standards, and instead, you've learned to embrace the little messes and mistakes. Whether it's a culinary disaster or a slip-up with your carefully crafted eating habits, you've learned to laugh it off, pick yourself up, and keep going. That's the beauty of this journey. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about growth. It's about progress. And it's about doing your best even when your best involves a slightly sour chickpea salad. The more you embrace the process, the more you learn about who you are and what really matters. Your transformation isn't just physical, it's emotional and mental as well. You've begun to understand that the choices you make in the kitchen reflect the way you approach life. You're more patient, more understanding with yourself and others. You no longer beat yourself up over mistakes, but instead, see them as opportunities to learn and grow. Speaking of mistakes, let's talk about the time you tried to make zucchini noodles for the first time. You had seen it on Instagram, those beautifully spiralized zoodles, served with a lovely marinara sauce and fresh herbs. You were so excited to try it. You grab a zucchini, you plate them, add the sauce, sprinkle some basil, and take your first bite. And then you stop. It's not like pasta at all. In fact, it's a bit watery, and the texture is, well, not pasta-like in the least. You push through, telling yourself it's just a different experience. But then, a few bites in, you realized you've eaten half the plate. And, while it's technically food, it's not the satisfying, comforting pasta you envisioned. You sigh, pick up your fork, and tell yourself, okay, next time, maybe not so much zucchini. You decide to let this be a lesson sometimes. Instagram recipes are just meant to be admired, not reproduced. As you enter this new phase, you realize that your journey has led you to a place of alignment. It's no longer just about eating better or feeling healthier. It's about living a life that reflects the values you hold most dear: compassion, sustainability, and kindness. Your food choices are no longer a temporary change or a challenge. They're the manifestation of who you've become. You feel a deep sense of peace when you sit down to your meals, knowing that they not only nourish you but also reflect your desire to make the world a better place. Your choices align with your heart. You've chosen a path that supports the planet, the animals, and your own well-being. This is the life you've chosen, and it's fulfilling in ways you never anticipated. You've learned that vegetarianism is not just about what you don't eat. It's about what you do, the choices you make, the actions you take, and the mindset you embrace. You are creating a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, and aligned with your deepest values. Okay, so let's wrap up with one final laugh. You had become so invested in your health journey that you decided to start eating a lot more fruit. The grocery store was full of fresh, beautiful bananas, and you convinced yourself that you could eat one a day for the next week. What you didn't anticipate was that your bananas would ripen all at once. You woke up one morning to find that your kitchen counter was now covered with overly ripe bananas. You tried to eat them all at once. You mashed them into oatmeal. You blended them into smoothies. You even tried banana pancakes. By the end of the week, you were sick of bananas. There were still a few left, staring at you accusingly. You laughed. Well, I'm going to make banana bread. And so you did. You figured, even when things go a little off course, you can always find a way to make it work. So there you were, surrounded by a mountain of overripe bananas. The kitchen counter had practically transformed into a banana-only zone, and you were now playing catch-up. But, as fate would have it, the bananas were determined to find their way into your life. You pulled out the big guns banana bread. But even that wasn't enough. After the fifth loaf, you started looking around for new ways to use up this banana bounty. Smoothies, check. Banana ice cream, check. Banana muffins. Oh yes, you made muffins, and they were almost as dense as bricks. But none of it seemed to make a dent in the banana mountain. You realized, with a sigh, that maybe, just maybe, you had overestimated how much banana your body could actually consume in a week. One evening, after a particularly strenuous banana-fueled day, you had a brilliant idea. Banana pancakes for dinner. I mean, why not? You thought, pancakes are breakfast food, but who says they can't be dinner? So, there you were, flipping pancakes like a professional chef, and it was delicious at first. By the third plateful, though, you found yourself questioning the choices you'd made. You began to wonder if you were turning into a walking potassium factory. The next day, you woke up to find the last few bananas staring at you in the fridge, their spots now resembling a starry night sky. It's time, you thought. The final batch of banana bread. This time, you went all out, adding in some dark chocolate chips, walnuts, and a touch of cinnamon. Basically, you were trying to make the banana bread as decadent as possible to redeem yourself. But of course, it was delicious, yet still, the inevitable happened. There was more banana bread than you could ever possibly eat, and at this point, you were going to have to give it away to friends, neighbors, and anyone who would take a loaf. You learned a valuable lesson that day. Never underestimate the power of a single grocery item to take over your life. Bananas, in all their glory, can be more of a commitment than you realize. And from that day on, every time you saw a banana at the store, you'd give it a long, knowing stare. Are you really sure I can handle this? The months have continued to fly by, And now that your vegetarian lifestyle has become such a normal, integrated part of your life, you begin to feel something more profound stirring in you. This journey, which you began for health and personal growth, has blossomed into something deeper. A desire to contribute to a larger cause. You've grown into someone who not only cares about your own health, but also deeply about the well-being of the planet, the animals, and the people around you. You've always believed in making ethical choices, but now, more than ever, you're seeing how interconnected everything is. The food you eat doesn't just impact your body, it impacts the earth and the entire ecosystem. The more you learn, the more you realize the immense power that food has not just to nourish, but to shape the world. You start reading more about climate change, the environmental impact of agriculture, and the ethics of animal farming. You're horrified by what you learn, but you also feel empowered. You know that by choosing to live in a way that aligns with your values, you're contributing to the solution. You don't have to change everything at once, but every small step, every plant-based meal, every eco-conscious decision has a far-reaching impact. And the more you learn, the more passionate you become. You feel compelled to share this knowledge, to be an advocate, not just for plant-based eating, but for the environment, for animals, and for people living sustainably. You find yourself having more and more conversations about food choices, about ethical farming practices, about the true cost of factory farming, and about how these issues affect the planet. The journey into healthier, more sustainable living wasn't all smooth sailing though. Take, for example, the time you decided to buy way too much spinach. You had every intention of making green smoothies for the entire week, and maybe even a spinach quiche or two. You went to the store with the best of intentions. 2 large bags of spinach should have been plenty, right? Turns out, spinach has a mind of its own. The next morning, you made your first smoothie, Green Power. You called it and it was delicious. But you were only halfway through the first bag of spinach and already feeling like Popeye on steroids. The second bag, well, that one stayed in your fridge, untouched, for an entire week. Every day, you would go into the fridge, open the vegetable drawer, and stare at the mountain of spinach leaves. You'd add a few more to your salad or smoothie, but it was still growing, still staring back at you. The spinach was multiplying. By the end of the week, you'd managed to incorporate spinach into every meal possible: smoothies, wraps, salads, omelets, pasta, you name it. But eventually, it became clear that you were going to have to face the spinach with a certain level of dignity. So you started throwing spinach into everything. You put it in your soup, you put it in your stir-fry, you put it in your popcorn, don't ask how. At this point, you were literally living off spinach. And every time you went to the store, you reminded yourself, 1 spinach bag, only 1. But for that week, you realized one thing. Sometimes, the best thing you can do in a plant-based lifestyle is to embrace the absurdity of the situation. Even when you're drowning in spinach, you still find the humor in it. By now, the growth isn't just physical or emotional, it's spiritual. You've begun to look at your choices as part of something larger. It's not just about food. It's about living in harmony with the world. It's about aligning your body, mind, and spirit with values that reflect your deepest beliefs. You notice that your choices now come from a place of calm. Gone are the days when you felt anxious about whether you were doing it right. The overwhelming feeling of needing to be perfect has faded into the background. Now, it's about the intention behind your choices. It's about how you live, not just what you eat. Your decisions are coming from a place of peace. When you think back to where you started making that initial choice to go vegetarian, it feels like a lifetime ago. You've come so far, and yet you know this journey is just beginning. There's still so much to learn, so much to experience, but you're no longer afraid of the uncertainty. Instead, you embrace it. You've learned that life isn't about finding all the answers. It's about moving forward, one step at a time. With each new discovery, with each plant-based meal, you realize more fully that you're creating a life that aligns with your deepest values. And in doing so, you're not just transforming yourself, you're contributing to a larger movement. One that is slowly but surely making the world a better place. As you continue on your journey, you begin to see the ripple effect your choices have on the world around you. At first, it was just you making decisions, finding new recipes, and figuring out how to adjust your life to reflect your values. But now, it's clear. Your choices are having an impact. They're rippling out into the world, touching the lives of others in ways you never expected. It's a small act, really making a plant-based meal, bringing it to a potluck, and sharing it with friends. But it sparks a conversation. Your friends begin to ask questions. How do you make that? What's this ingredient? I could never give up cheese, but this is actually really good. The more you share your experiences, the more people seem interested in trying plant-based meals. They start experimenting with recipes. Some begin swapping out 1 or 2 meals a week for vegetarian options, and slowly, a shift begins to happen. What began as a personal journey has transformed into a movement. You start to realize that this lifestyle isn't just a trend or a thing you do for a while. It's a long-term commitment to living in a way that aligns with your beliefs. But it's also a way to create change, to influence those around you to make better choices for their health, the environment, and the animals. You begin to get more involved in your community. You attend local events that promote sustainability, animal rights, and plant-based living. You find yourself surrounded by like-minded people who are on the same path. People who share your passion for creating a better world. You exchange ideas, collaborate on projects, and even start a small group dedicated to exploring new plant-based recipes and learning about sustainable living. There's a sense of camaraderie in these spaces, and it's inspiring to see how many people are working toward similar goals. You also start to become more vocal about your beliefs. What once felt like something you had to keep to yourself is now something you're proud of. You share your journey on social media, not in an effort to preach, but to share what worked for you and encourage others to consider the possibility of making small changes in their own lives. You don't expect anyone to adopt your lifestyle fully, but you know that even the smallest change can make a difference. As your influence grows, you begin to see the impact not just in your own life, but in the lives of others. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, they all begin to embrace aspects of plant-based living in their own way. It's not about convincing them to be vegetarian, it's about showing them the benefits of eating more plants and living a more sustainable life. And that, to you, is the most rewarding part of this entire journey. One evening, you decide to host a dinner party and introduce your friends to the wonders of plant-based cuisine. You've decided to make tacos vegan style. Of course, you've perfected the tofu scramble for the filling, and you've even made your own guacamole. You're feeling confident. This is going to be a hit. But as you prepare everything, you realize that the tortillas you bought are not gluten-free, despite what the packaging suggested. And since one of your friends has a gluten intolerance, you start to panic. You can't just throw away the tacos. So, you quickly rush to the store and grab gluten-free tortillas, praying you won't ruin everything. You get back to the house and assemble the tacos, only to find out that the taco shells are too small for the filling you've made. The tofu scramble overflows, and you end up with taco fillings all over the table. You laugh nervously as you serve your friends, apologizing profusely. Despite the chaos, your friends love the tacos. They laugh at the mess you made, but they're genuinely impressed by how flavorful the meal is. And while it wasn't the perfectly planned dinner party you envisioned, it ends up being a reminder that cooking is a journey. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's chaotic, but it's always about the experience. And in the end, it's the laughter and shared moments that matter the most. The more you embrace this lifestyle, the more you start to let go of expectations. You've let go of the idea that you have to be perfect, that every meal has to be flawless, that every day has to be entirely plant-based. You've learned that it's about the journey, not the destination. It's about making progress, not being perfect. It's about making conscious choices and being mindful of your impact. You start to embrace the imperfections in your journey. The moments when things go wrong, when your tofu scramble doesn't turn out quite right, when the vegan cheese melts in a way you weren't expecting, or when you eat something that isn't as sustainable as you hoped, are no longer failures. They're simply moments in the process. And you've learned to accept them with grace. Instead of focusing on what you haven't done or the times you've slipped up, you've learned to focus on the progress you've made. You celebrate each small victory. Every plant-based meal you make is a step in the right direction. Every time you choose sustainability over convenience, you're contributing to the world you want to see. It's not about perfection, it's about intention. And with each passing day, you've become more aligned with your intentions. You've learned to appreciate the beauty of the process, even when it's messy or imperfect. You've learned to savor the moments, whether they're big or small, and to embrace the journey as it unfolds. One day, you get a bit too carried away and decide to make a completely vegan dessert to impress some guests. You search the internet for the ultimate vegan chocolate mousse recipe. The ingredients list is full of strange things like avocados and coconut cream. But you're confident in your new cooking abilities. You've got this. You blend everything together, pour it into fancy glasses, and refrigerate it, just like the recipe says. A few hours later, you're eagerly getting ready for the big reveal. You pop the mousse out of the fridge, and it looks perfect, rich, smooth, and glossy. You grab a spoonful and take a bite. It's single quotes s dot dot dot, not mousse. It's a blob of avocado and coconut cream. The texture is off, the flavor is strange, and you quickly realize that this was not the dessert you were hoping for. But you soldier on and serve it to your guests with a big smile, saying, "It's a unique take on chocolate mousse." Your guests, being good friends, choke down the dessert. But you can see the subtle faces of confusion as they try to figure out what they just ate. By the end of the night, they're laughing about it, and so are you. Sometimes, even the most ambitious vegan dessert plans fail, but that's okay. It's all part of the fun. The road you've traveled so far has been one of immense growth. What started as a dietary choice has transformed into a life of purpose, intention, and empowerment. You're no longer just thinking about yourself. You're thinking about the world, about the future, about the generations that will follow. You're part of a movement, one that values compassion, sustainability, and ethics. This lifestyle, this journey, is no longer a burden or an obligation. It's a celebration. It's about living in alignment with your values, creating a life that reflects who you are and who you want to become. You're no longer the person who looked at food as just fuel. Now, food is a source of energy, healing, and joy. You've created a life that feels authentic and true to your beliefs. You've found peace in knowing that every decision you make is one that aligns with your deepest values. Whether it's the food you eat, the people you spend time with, or the way you engage with the world, you feel grounded in a sense of purpose. And though this journey has been challenging, it's been the most rewarding thing you've ever done. You know that the road ahead is long, but with every step, you're becoming more of the person you want to be. And as you look to the future, you realize that this is only the beginning. As time goes on, you begin to notice just how much your journey has shaped your life. It's no longer just about the meals or the health benefits. It's about how your choices are influencing the people around you. You're starting to see that the change you've embraced has a ripple effect, one that you never imagined at the beginning of this journey. You remember the moment when your cousin, who had always been a meat lover, asked if you could make him a vegetarian dish for the next family gathering. At first, you thought he was joking. There was no way he was actually considering it. But he was serious. And though he wasn't ready to make the leap just yet, he admitted that he was curious about how you had made the transition. This was a turning point for you, not because it was a massive shift in someone else's life, but because it was a small but significant change in his thinking. He was open to exploring plant-based foods, even if just as an experiment. This moment, though subtle, made you realize something. Your actions are inspiring people. You're not out there preaching or pushing your beliefs onto others. Instead, you're living authentically, and your example is doing the work for you. People are curious, they're interested, and they want to learn more. They're seeing the benefits firsthand and, without you saying a word, they're beginning to question their own habits. That night, you make a simple vegetable stir-fry with tofu and quinoa. When your cousin takes his first bite, you can see the hesitation in his eyes. But then, a smile forms. Wow, this is actually really good. And just like that, he's had his first real taste of plant-based food and it's a success. He's not ready to give up steak, but you've planted a seed, and that's all you need. There's something about family gatherings that can make even the most experienced cooks nervous. For instance, that one time, when you brought your famous kale and quinoa salad to a barbecue, you had carefully crafted the salad, making sure it was the perfect balance of healthy and flavorful. You had it all: the kale, the chickpeas, the roasted sweet potatoes, the tahini dressing. This time, you were confident. You were going to impress everyone, but when you arrived at the BBQ, you quickly realized something: your family, in all their carnivorous glory, had absolutely no idea what a quinoa salad was. As you placed the dish on the table, your uncle looked at it like it was some kind of alien spaceship that had landed on the picnic table. "What's this?" he asked, eyeing the salad suspiciously. "Oh, it's a kale and quinoa salad," you explained, beaming with pride. Your aunt took a cautious forkful and paused. Is this supposed to be crunchy?" You explained, again, that the quinoa wasn't supposed to be crunchy, and that it was just a healthy, light dish to balance out the heavier options like hot dogs and burgers. "Well, I'm going to try it," your uncle said, picking up a big bite, and he chewed. And chewed some more. It's not bad," he said, still chewing. "But I think I'd prefer a burger." And that was that. In the end, the salad sat mostly untouched, surrounded by meat-filled platters, but you didn't mind. UD learned that not every family gathering is the time to make everyone your biggest fan of plant-based eating, but you did get a good laugh, and, hey, at least you tried.